Welcome to bexbugoutsurvivor. We've got a Bergen tailoring video. With this one, we're going to put a back cushion onto my Bergen. Is the only support you've got. It's these ribs here, all the way across, run from top to bottom. They perform the task brilliantly of transporting a lot of weight, but there isn't a lot of consideration to the user's comfort. There's actually zero comfort in this padding here. So let's put this to one side. So I went around the car boot and found myself a pack. I've been looking for a few weeks. I wanted something with this kind of very dense foam here, which is either side of the spine, with a big chunky lumber, and I can also reuse these buttles on the waistband for another project, because I've got a broken Bergen. This one's only fit for the bin. It's ripped. I could try and repair this, not worth it. It cost me £2, but that is the bit I'm interested in, just this back. Now it has to fit under the straps of this Bergen here and come all the way to the bottom here. So let's see if we've got anywhere near a good fit. Let's just take it all the way up underneath the shoulder straps. I've got a good width. It is exactly to the bottom of my pack. This is absolutely ideal. I'll show you what this pack is if you want to replicate this. Forces 44X is the brand. It's got somebody's name and number tag, which I really like. This is actually hard metal and that is stamped in. I really like that. Can take these D-loops off, always come in handy. You can never have too many zippers either. This back pad onto here, it should be straightforward. These ribs here, I'm not going to stitch through here, I'm stitching through the side, which means I can cut away with a pair of scissors all the way around. That should be good enough. Got an accurate fit. Just going to trim everything off I don't need. Got to figure out how I'm going to do this. I think I'll take the lid off. At first, I'm not going too close to where I need to be. I'm going to cut a good inch away, and that will allow for any mistakes. I'm going to go straight down the edge here. I'm going to try and leave at least an inch gap, because I want to try and get a hem out of this also. And for now, I'm going around this hip pad with this edge of fabric. I'm hoping to get a fold in it to make a hem. It's going to be tight, it's not very big, about 1 centimetre, but it's neat enough that I can stitch through this extra material, and that is what's being stitched onto the pack rather than sewing straight through the padding. Let's carry on. Given the actual condition of this remaining fabric that I did want to make a hem from, That is not going to happen. It is too threadbare. I can almost rip it with my bare fingers, so it's not going to take a stitch. So I am going to have to cut as close to this mesh as I can, but I can take off the remaining hip pads or not. I don't know yet. Tricky. Keep them or not. For now, I'm going to keep them and trim up all this. So I've tried to get as close as I can to the actual mesh itself without actually going through it. I am gonna stitch through the mesh, maybe. I do not want to go through this original stitching. It's so threadbare, this, but the pad, as you can see, is absolutely fantastic. So let me tidy this back cushion up and then we'll be back to sew this on. I'm going to use the existing ribbon around the edge to sew to, and I think I'll use the sewing awl. So I'm going to do the whole lot with tacking stitches. I really like this. I like the way it's turned out. This little bit of fabric I'm going to tuck under on itself, and this hasn't been stitched on yet. So let's lift it out the way. The only way I can sew is between these ribs. At the bottom I have this fabric here, which is the ribbon, and this can go all the way underneath the Bergen. So the next lot of stitching, let me see where I'm up to, is this bit of pad between these ribs. So let's set up a sewing awl, and that is the awl I use. That little dot indicates where the recess is, and you can see on the end it has this recessed area. Grab some old material and I'll very quickly show you how I awl. I've measured myself out an arm span of 150 denier wax thread. I know the recess side is where that black mark is. This will become apparent a little later. Let's just thread this in and through. You could do it with needles. There are times in your life that a needle just will not do. If you can't keep a straight line, get some chalk, a chalk pencil, draw yourself a straight line to follow. If you can follow the existing stitching, all the better. Let's just poke my little gadget through. Very sharp. Watch your fingers the other side. Pull the recess side line through. So I'm going to have half of the thread on one side of the project and half on the other. So when I pull this out, it should look like that. I want enough length on this tail to cover the length of the project. If I'm stitching from here to here, I want double that length. I really recommend keeping these stitches small. So that has gone through both parts of the project, the pouch I'm putting on and what I'm putting the pouch on to. And then I pull back with the sewing awl, but not all the way out, just a little, and you can see this loop has formed on the end of the awl. And you can see I have the recess on the upward side, and I can just take the tail end and thread it through that. I don't like leaving the awl in if I'm doing pouches. It's so sharp, it'll take your damn fingers off. I've been pierced that many times, and pull the whole lot out, and that's created the first stitch. Too tight, it's going to look a mess. Not tight enough, you're going to leave a horrible loop on the inside of your project. It'll come with time, this. It'll come with time. I don't like doing it like that. What I prefer doing is actually taking the awl completely out. Like I said, this is so sharp that it will go straight through your finger into your bone. There's no doubt about that. So let's get it in, and behind you can see I have 2 fingers like this either side of the awl. I can feel for the spike. Put a finger either side, so when I push through like that, I'm not going into my bone, and believe me, it will create a loop. Now I know which side my recess is. I put a little dot there so I know it corresponds to this loop here on top of the awl. Grab the loop, just pull the damn thing out completely. I can extend the loop, reach inside and grab the tail end. Let me just find it for you. Here it is. Reach inside, pull that tail end through, and then once again just pull tight. This will take quite a bit of time getting your stitches this sort of size, so I can do kind of 2 of their stitches to 1 of mine. In it goes, between my fingers the other side, pull back with the sewing awl to make a loop. Some of these awls have a bobbin either at the bottom here or a screw off top which you put in. Reinventing the wheel, guys, no need. Alright, let's see if we can do this in real time. And this is harder than you think when you're looking through the camera lens rather than watching what you're actually doing. There's 1 stitch. You can see I can move quite quickly. It's never going to be as fast as a needle and thread, but there's a couple of stitches in for you, and before you know it, you've done your project. Take your time. Don't see it as a chore that needs to be done. See it as a task in being neat and tidy. Never time yourself. It's done when it's done, and that way you'll have a much more professional appearance. If you cut a length of thread like this, like I have, it may come off your awl. All I do, fold a little knot in the end. So I folded my cord or thread in half and just put a single overhand knot in the end. It'll prevent it from slipping off, and there you have it. The recess I know is facing down towards the project. Let's pop 1 more in. Through, pull back. I know the recess is on the bottom, so I can grab the loop, pull the awl completely out, let's tighten that up, grab the tail. It's actually easier doing this through the monitor than it is looking at what I'm doing. And there's another one in. I should have 2 tails here on the inside, and I can tie these together but I'm going to show you a little cheat because this is wax thread. I don't tie these together. You would if you're using cotton thread. 2 overhand knots. Let's get into my little toolbox, bring a Bic lighter, and let's torch these and see what happens. You can see it's made a weld. Get a chalk pen and draw a nice straight line. I haven't, and you can see some stitches are bigger than the others. Them 3 are brilliant. I took my time with them. Small one, big one, wonky one, and do the whole thing a lot neater. But that's a quick lesson in awling when you haven't got one of these speedy awls or easy sew gadgets. It is just reinventing the wheel. Get yourself a proper awl. So now we know how to awl. It's a case of putting one hand inside the Bergen. And I know you're not going to see a lot, but neither will I. Hence me showing you on a scrap bit of fabric. Okay, let's put some stitching into the back cushion and into the Bergen. This section here is between the ribs, the hard ribs, and that's soft enough to go through. Flatten out my project, and I'm going through the mesh and the Bergen, and very, very slowly just send this all through both parts, keeping my fingers well out of the way. And I've just removed the awl so we can see what we're doing. There, this tail end in the right, I've just pulled out of the Bergen. I also have a tail here. Rethread, remember the recess pointing down onto your project, not up towards the sky. Rethread and tie a little loop on the end. I'm just going to put 1 overhand knot in mine. Make the first stitch, and I'm just going to move up to the next part here. So it's quite a big stitch, and push in, and it's in. Get my hand inside the Bergen and feel for this awl. I can see the recess side. Pull back, make that loop that I shown you a minute ago. And this is a little tricky doing it on camera, but believe me, it goes a lot quicker when you're not filming it. I'm holding on to that loop. You can't see it, but I am. And I'm going to pull that tail end through. Finding the tail end with your hand in the Bergen is not as easy as it looks. Okay, that's the first stitch in. You can see I have the tail in my right hand. I'm left-handed. It's going to look awkward for you. This is something you can do blind once you're used to doing it. That should be enough tacking stitches here. Maybe one more. In it goes. Bring the awl back, grab the loop, and pull it off like that. That can go away. Okay, you're looking inside the Bergen, and I'm going to just put a couple of overhand knots in them 2 tail ends. I can trim up these tail ends, or in my case, just use a lighter. There. That's off, that's seared and made a weld at the same time. What we've done is this bit here. I move down to the next rib underneath, put a couple of tacking stitches in here. Then at the bottom, I will run stitching all the way across. A couple of tacking stitches there, tidy up the top in the same manner. And because this back pad is something I got off the car boot off another pack, it won't be exact as something you might find, and you have to use some initiative. It hasn't thrown up too many surprises. It's been quite easy to do. Right, along here now, put a couple more here, tidy up this top section. You'll be seeing me when all this has been completed. Okay, it's all completed now. Let's turn it round. Two supports either side with an airflow here on the lumbar. I've tucked it in here and put a couple of stitches there, and then just down the edges in between each of these ribs. It is stitched all the way across. The stitches are small, they're neat, followed a good straight line. Sleeping bag, bivvy, spare set of clothes, dry gear. This is worked out nice. It just needs a little something extra for the shoulders, and that's going to be a different episode. So until then, take care of yourself and I'll see you out there. Happy trails.